The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
You are now watching the Alan and DJ show.
Yo, yo, yo! Milwaukee, Sun Prairie, Oconomowoc, and all the surrounding areas. Welcome to the Alan and DJ show. I'm Alan.
And this is your boy, DJ.
And we got our wonderful friend here today.
Gail Buckberger from Lake Blue Wellness.
Let's do it. So we briefly touched on ADHD, the causes and effects, and how does it starts and where it can get treated and where you can go. So in case if you missed episode 1, we can kind of skim over that a little bit.
Sure. ADHD is often misunderstood because people think, oh, it's just a bad kid or a bad attitude, things like that. No, ADHD is truly a neurodevelopment disorder in the brain, and that the brain does not develop as quickly in someone with ADHD as someone who doesn't have it. And they can lag up to 3 years behind in processes. So, and they lack some of the executive function ability in their brain because that part of the brain does not develop as it should.
Okay.
So that's the short version of it.
Okay. Yeah, and then I know on the last show we talked about the 3 types, but can you briefly tell us the 3 types?
Sure. There are 3 main types that are recognized by most docs. One is the common one that everybody calls ADD, which is, and they're all called ADHD, but the ADD one is attention deficit disorder, which is you are the inattentive type of ADHD. And then there's the hyperactivity one where they're predominantly more hyper. They're the kids that can't sit still. They're the kids that are always on the go. Those are the kids that are talking 300 miles an hour. Yeah. That's the other type. And the third type is you can be hyperactive, impulsive, and inattentive, all 3 of those, any 2 of those, and that's called the combined type.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Wow, sounds good. So today, as we talk about ADHD, we're going to really peel back the layers a little bit. So we're going to dive a little deeper today about ADHD as far as like medication, side effects. How does it affect men and women? So today, our good old friend Gal is going to tell us about that.
Yeah. So let's start with some of the treatments for ADHD.
Okay.
Like we said in round 1, pills don't teach skills. So pills are important.
Sure.
Typically, ADHD is treated with stimulant medication, but it does not have to necessarily be a stimulant that we treat with. That's first line for most people. There are now some that are first line that are non-stimulants that we can use with kids 6 and up, which is really good because sometimes it's very hard for a parent to accept putting a young child on a stimulant, and I would be wary of that too, and there's good reason to be. So it really depends on, one, what is the type of ADHD, what are their symptoms, what are their struggles, are there other behavioral issues, are there other anxiety issues or depression issues or something going on in the house that might be stressing the kid out, making the symptoms worse. So you really have to be really honed in on the whole picture of the child and not just this one little piece. And the stimulants are great. They work very well. People that have ADHD that go on meds are like my brain is quiet. And I hear that so often from people. Like my son's like, why is it so quiet? And I'm like, what do you mean quiet? He's like, I don't hear all the things going in my head that I heard before, not voices, but just I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about that and I want to play that game and I want that Lego set and I want to do this. And he goes, and now it's just like I can sit down and do my homework. So it is a world of difference when you're on the right medication, but you got to really be on the right medication. We said in part 1, one of the things we don't want is we don't want to give your kid a medication and it turns them into a zombie. That means it's either wrong dose, wrong med, or something else is going on. So, it's important that it's treated correctly. Again, this is part of the reason why I was so passionate about opening this clinic, because my poor friends in primary care, they don't have the time.
Okay.
To really address the situation like it should be. And that's just kind of how the healthcare systems, it's not their fault. They
Right.
just are kind of like, I don't know what to do. If the medication doesn't work right, what do I do? And I'm like, well, then send them to me. So, and that is happening. Some of the docs are like, I don't know what to do. We've tried this med, we've tried that med, and and we can kind of dig a little deeper and take a little more time without having the pressure that they have. So, and I like that because then I can really, talk with the parents and talk with the
Most definitely.
child and, get a better picture of what's going on. So, we're really interested in how can we really help and not just, well, here's a pill and good luck and
Right.
let us know if you get a side effect. What's a side effect? I don't know. Ask the pharmacist.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's really good to know because if I was a parent and my child have ADHD, I feel like this information would be very helpful because it's a lot of doctors out here that really do that. They just, well, we're just gonna give you this right here and send you on your way, and then all of a sudden the kids just
Yeah.
and
And the parents may like that a little bit, but still not good.
Yeah.
Still not good.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got a question,
Sure.
Gail. For ADHD, I'm trying to find a way to reword it real quick.
Sure.
Is that disorder basically developed, or do you get it at birth? Is it birth related?
Good question.
It tends to be genetic.
Genetic. Okay.
It tends to be genetic.
Generationally, genetic.
It can be
or-
generationally. About, what do they say, 25 to 30% of kids with ADHD have at least one parent, if not both.
Okay.
With ADHD, most of them are undiagnosed. Because I'm in my 50s.
Yeah.
We didn't have ADHD when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You were just a wild kid or
Yeah.
a bad kid.
Yeah.
There was no diagnosis for this, you
Yeah.
know.
Sure.
So, it's kind of, you have to kind of look at the family history too. And it's interesting because I've had some families come in and, they had their kid test and then mom's like, can I test? And I'm like, sure.
Okay.
And it turns out they both have it.
Okay.
So it does tend to be generational. Does that mean to all degrees? No. And we don't always know why,
Okay.
but it does tend to run family to family.
Okay.
And then I know so today you also have some my information to show the viewers
Yeah.
about ADHD and
Yeah, so I think the hardest thing for me was just not knowing how to help my child.
right.
Like, how do you get them to stay on task when they have no concept of time? We tried timers.
Yeah.
They ignored the timers.
Yep.
So, especially when they were little. So some things that work well and I just wanted to share today with you are these cute little things. They're little chore charts, basically.
Okay.
Like to make
nice.
your morning and your night a little easier. You just use like double-sided tape or Velcro, and there's their to-do list in the morning, and they just move it over when they're done. And it also kind of teaches them a sense of
that's
responsibility
cool.
and
Oh, wow.
accomplishment, which builds them up, which is so important because at school so many times, because they're not paying attention, they're told they're bad or they're this. So you really need to build the confidence as much as you can. This was from a website that I found, just happened to be online, called What Moms Love.
Okay.
So I don't want to steal credit for her stuff.
Okay.
But it's just nice because, they print out, you cut them out,
Oh,
and you move them over.
got it.
Isn't that cute?
Guys, that
That
is
is-
beautiful right
Yeah.
there.
Simple.
That is awesome.
It's
Simple.
That is
and
awesome.
then it keeps them on track.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that because it's
Right.
building good habits.
Yep.
Now, when they're little, that's great. When they get older, especially, teenagers, preteens,
Yeah.
now what do you do to get a list like that going? Well, now you leave it more up to them.
Yeah.
And they love whiteboards.
Whiteboard.
So this is a great one. So this one, kind of goes, okay, what are your priorities for the week? And you can sit down with them and help them do this.
Yeah.
But then hang this like in their room.
Okay.
Or in the hallway where they get their coat, or do you know what I mean? Whatever
Yes.
works for you guys. And it's just a great way because then it's just another reminder, another visual for them. And then if they do it, this is what's important to them. Do you know what I
like
mean?
that.
And not just, this is what mom told me to do.
Right.
Got it.
Because if you do that, forget it. It's just not going to happen. It's just not. So those are just some easy ways. And there's some great resources out there too. One is called CHADD. It's capital CHADD. And that's got a lot of resources for children with ADHD, parents, so many free resources out there.
Okay.
Great book recommendations, things like that. Another one is called a magazine you can subscribe to called Attitude.
Okay.
And again, that one's great. And then there's Attention is the other little magazine that's out there.
That.
And a
Okay.
lot of these are free resources. Yes, they do have some things that they offer that you can buy, but a lot of them are so helpful. And like the Attitude, if you look on their website, they have so many free seminars. For
Okay.
they have one coming up soon for how to deal with going back to school and homework, which
Nice.
parents right now are like, I don't want to think about that. And I remember those days. I didn't either. So it's just really great free resources that I think people just don't know about. And I just want to get the word out there that, hey, there are things that you can do that will help your kids.
Okay.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
With some of the disorders, like they have similar traits, right? And with those similar traits, how do you separate those traits of the other disorders as opposed to ADHD?
Yep. So when we have somebody in, especially somebody who's new, we go through a depression scale, a generalized anxiety scale, a suicide scale, and looking at any substance use things.
Okay.
So, and you really want to get a clear picture of what's going on, because through some of these scales, it can kind of tell us, do they have a lot of anxiety, and are their anxiety symptoms higher than their ADHD symptoms?
Okay.
And then we also do the objective testing that gives us some, objective point that says, yes,
Sure.
they have these attributes, or no, they don't. Because there's kind of a Q score cutoff line that says, yes, this is a problem, or no, it's not.
Okay.
So, that kind of helps us, looking at that whole picture. Because it's very common to have depression, anxiety, and ADHD all together.
Yeah.
So you really got to be careful. And some of them, they come in and it's not ADHD. You're talking to them, and I'm already seeing it because I deal with it so much.
Yeah.
But sometimes having to explain to them, okay, this and the testing helps because it gives them an objective measure too, to show them that, no, you did not score as positive traits on this. But then explaining to them, hey, do you realize you have a really high score on the depression scale? And have you ever been treated for depression before? Or is there anybody in your family? And,
Right.
I've had people tell me, yeah, I had a family member commit suicide
Oh my
because they
gosh.
had depression. Okay, let's look at that. Like, we need to treat that. Have you been treated before? And just kind of, find out the history. Sometimes it's that people are just in denial, that they don't want to believe
Yeah.
they have depression, they don't want to take meds. It's the whole mental health stigma again.
Yeah. Kind of like a pride thing.
Yeah,
Kind of a pride
right,
thing.
right. And especially in men.
Okay.
It's
yeah.
Got you.
really hard in men. Like, women are like, what do you got?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sick of feeling like this. Like, will it go with my wine? No, but let's
Right.
talk about that.
Yeah.
Good question too,
Yeah.
which means me to bring this to your attention. How does it treat women different than it treats men? when it
Sure,
comes to
sure. ADHD presents so differently in women than it does in men, and especially in girls when they're very young. Girls, like I remember, a little friend, we'd be like, hey, how's Sally World today? And she's like, she wouldn't answer, you'd ask her again, oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Because she's daydreaming.
Yeah.
And that's her form of ADHD. Where boys tend to be more hyperactive. You often don't see that. Girls' hyperactivity is them sitting there bouncing their knee,
Okay.
or doing this, or biting their fingernails, or picking at their fingers. That is hyperactivity in girls.
Okay.
So when everybody else is like, that's not hyperactivity, they're just anxious. It's also,
Yeah.
Yeah.
a thing of ADHD. So it's very important to know that it is different. And yes, ADHD medications can help that too. Do you know what I mean? And what we're finding now is that we have a lot of patients coming to us that are in their, they just finished their first year of college.
Nice.
And they've never been diagnosed.
Okay.
They've struggled through school, but high school's a world of difference than you go to, a big college and now you're alone and you don't know your roommate,
Yep.
and there's all these, other social stressors going on. And then they also don't have mom or dad there to be like, oh, hey, did you remember to do this? You know, it's all on you.
Yeah.
And then they find they are failing miserably and they can't hold it together and they're even more anxious now.
Yeah.
And they're feeling terrible about themselves. And then we test them and and then we put them on meds. They're like, oh my God, this is great. Do you know what I mean? And you know, people give a bad name to stimulants too because they think, oh, you're going to give them, and my kid's going to be bouncing off the walls. It works exactly the opposite in the ADHD brain.
Okay.
So you give somebody a stimulant who has ADHD, it calms the brain.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So if you give a kid a stimulant, like, you know, unfortunately some docs are like, oh, they feel pressured into I know my kid has ADHD, you got to give them a med. And then they're bouncing off the walls worse. Well, that's because they don't have it.
Okay.
You know, because the brain will act differently to that medication.
Wow.
So it's interesting. And that's kind of why, like, you might know some people that can chug, you know, 3 monsters and then go take a nap.
Yeah.
Well, those people probably have ADHD because once that caffeine hits their brain, well, everything's calmed down now, so now they can sleep.
Okay.
So it's just, you know, so people think, oh, well, I can just treat it with a few monsters. No, it's not going to help. And it's horrible for you, so please don't. And, you know, so just watch, you know, you have to look at it, you know.
Wow. Like, you know, you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
I didn't either, man.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
That's
the one
beautiful.
thing with stimulants, we do have to be careful in children is especially it tends to cause severe appetite suppression.
Really?
Really?
So they already will be kids who don't necessarily think, oh, I need to eat lunch.
Yeah.
You know, they'll wait till they're ready to gnaw their arm off and now they're hangry
Yeah.
and their emotions go
Yeah.
because they didn't eat, but they didn't think about it, you know. So that you have to be careful of because kids can have significant weight loss on it.
Okay.
Adults also, like if you're maybe a little overweight, you're like, yay, okay, great. But if it starts dropping too much, that's a problem.
Okay.
You know, and then we got to cut back the dose or look at something else or, you know, do we need to do some kind of therapy or something else to kind of,
sure.
you know, minimize the meds and increase
Okay.
the treatment.
Okay. And this would be a med. I'm going to ask you a med question.
Sure.
When prescribing somebody a certain medication, like that helps treat ADHD for most people, like what would you recommend for somebody that's allergic to that particular med that you prescribe to them?
Yeah. If they have an allergy to stimulants, things like that, then there are some other meds that you can use that are non-stimulants.
Okay.
That they work to a point, they just don't work as well as the stimulants.
Okay.
And then there are some even antidepressants
Okay.
that have off-label use for treating ADHD. And that sometimes actually is a better, if you have somebody who's really severely depressed and ADHD, sometimes that's a better med to start with
Yes.
and get the depression under control.
Okay.
Because you really need to look at what's affecting your life the most. You know, is it my depression? Am I not getting out of bed? Am I not going to work? Am I not showering? You know, or is it I can't pay attention?
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? You have to look at what's the worst and treat the biggest problem first.
Okay.
Because I noticed that like a lot of people attention spans be short, and you know that could be part of the reason. You know, it could be a little bit of ADHD going on, and but you know, like you said, you know, you want to let's get the proper treatment first. Let's get the proper tests ran, and let's start with I want to say what's most important at first. But in case people missed this in episode 1. What is the percentages for between kids and adults with ADHD?
Sure. Typically, they say kids, it's anywhere from 7 to 10% of school-age children. Adults, right now, what they're saying is about 7% of the adult population. Again, I think that's a little on the low.
Yeah.
Just because a lot of adults go off their meds, for one, or they've never been tested. So, you know, but it'd be interesting. And there are a lot of people that, you know, as kids, they're on meds, but then, you know, we work with them and then we teach them the skills and they do this and they do that. And they figure out how to manage the fact that they're time blind or they're don't remember things, you know, and people have asked me about the apps too. And,
definitely.
you know, there's a lot of apps out there that claim, you know, oh, I'm great for ADHD and you'll be so productive and this and that. The research isn't showing that so far.
Okay.
But for some people it works.
Yeah.
So if it works for you, do it. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
is it going to be like, oh, I can just go off my meds and just do the app? Well, maybe. You know, but I think you got to work at making sure you have the skills.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. And my personal question to you is why would you prefer Lake Blue Wellness?
Well, the fun fact is we're one of the few specialty clinics for ADHD in the state of Wisconsin. There are a few others that do specialize in ADHD in Wisconsin, but we're the only one in like the Heartland Lake Country area.
Nice.
So, you know, and for people that are really struggling to get your kids in to be tested, and there's 9 to 12 months waiting list, if we are just looking at being tested for ADHD, that is something we can help you with. If your child is looking for, you know, is it questionable autism or ODD or some other mental health disorders, know that that would be beyond what we could do.
Gotcha.
But if they're solely concerned about it's just ADHD, definitely we can help you with that.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Do you treat any other disorders besides ADHD at your clinic?
We primarily treat ADHD, but if somebody comes in and they have ADHD with depression or ADHD with anxiety, that is something that we will treat along with the ADHD.
Okay.
Because again, you got to look at which one's worse. So where do you start first?
Okay.
So.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I guess for people who don't really understand like what the whole breakdown of like ADHD means, like you want to give them like the definition of it?
Sure. ADHD is a neurodevelopment disorder of the brain in which the two hemispheres of the brain do not connect together as quickly as somebody who's
Gotcha.
ADHD. And what happens then, the frontal lobes here that control all the executive function, like short-term memory, time management, planning, I can't even think of all of them, but but they just don't grow those little synapses that we normally would.
Yeah.
And therefore they have to work a little harder at those things.
Most definitely.
Wow.
And you know, because it's crazy that you're mentioning this, because I've been around people with some of these symptoms, and I never would have thought of ADHD. You know, like I just be like, oh, this kid is out of control, or something's wrong with this guy, or something wrong with this woman.
Yeah.
But not understanding, like, you know, like how you said, you know, like how you got certain games for kids and maybe for like pre-adults and teens who can, hey, you know what, this what works for me, instead of somebody telling you what to do, because that can maybe cause them to snap out.
Right.
So, you know,
Right.
like I like how you got all that far as like, okay, this is like structure for me and this is what I like to do. And then like, I would look at it as if it's like a challenge, you know what I'm saying? And like you said, you know, because like it's making me happy. Like I feel like I'm getting something accomplished. I'm getting something done.
You're getting that dopamine fix.
I'm getting that dopamine fix. That's it. That's it.
Yep. And there's a lot of good ways to get dopamine fixes outside of, you know, us giving you, you know, a stimulant or a med. You know, walking is a great one. Just getting outside in general, sunlight, activities, time with your friends, meditation's a really good one. If you're bad about keeping on track with meals, eat a high protein snack.
Okay.
You know, because that actually will help their brains, you
Okay. There you
know.
go.
So there are just a lot of good things. You know, if you're stressing out, do you have a friend to talk to?
Yeah.
Like that actually is giving you those dopamine fixes that you're looking for in addition to the medication. So
Okay.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, because exercising is something I really love to do.
Yep.
And you know, that really does help. Like ADHD or not, you know, like that really
Right.
do help.
Yeah.
Meditation
Absolutely.
and all that, it brings you back into center focus. So those are good ways to, you know, say maybe help the dopamine, like she said, to help like the ADHD to kind of just, you know, suppress it a little bit. I like that. But Gal, I just want to know, where can they find you?
Yeah, we are at Lake Blue Wellness. We are in Heartland, Wisconsin. Our phone number is 262-386-5885. 361-4005, or you can find us at lakebluewellness.com.
Okay. Wow. And we'll finish it off with Gail's final thought.
The final thought is ADHD is super important to be treated correctly. And if you're questioning, do I have it? Do I not? Please reach out to us. We will gladly talk to you over the phone to kind of assess the situation before you come in. You know, we're not going to be like, oh no, you have to come in, you have to have an appointment, things like that. You know, please reach out to us and we can kind of lead you down the right path.
Okay.
And then like I would say maybe outside your website, you have like any maybe social platforms you might want to put out there.
Yeah, we do have a Facebook page that we're working on.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
And hopefully soon we'll be starting a TikTok page, so that ought to be really interesting.
There you go.
I like
There you
that. I
go.
like that.
Watch for that. It should be hilarious.
TikTok. And it's always a pleasure, to have you.
Yeah,
I
thank you
remember,
so much for having me.
Anytime. I just remember how we met. It was beautiful. It was eating chicken wings, and
Right?
I never thought that someone would be listening to the show, and someone who's certified in ADHD, and which falls in the general topic of mental health. So check out Lake Blue Wellness. I really believe it'll help you experience a whole new journey and get you the help that you need. And you can find us at the Alan and DJ Show on Facebook fan page, and you can find us at Alan Hutchinson and DJ at gmail.com, or William J. Smith at Instagram and Facebook, and Alan Hutchinson at Instagram and Facebook. And DJ, you have a final thought.
Oh, now, with mental health in general, like, it is a serious issue. And like when we did the show, we basically just based it on our expertise and stuff like that. But this is the real expert right here. And if you really are going through what you need to be going through, and you really need to seek help, then go seek help from your primary physician.
Yep.
All right, guys, until next time, we are Marquette alumni in here. Stay well, stay healthy.
Peace.
Peace.